Okay, so something pretty wild has just happened in the world of commodities. A metal that we all know, but maybe don't really think about, has just gone on an absolutely historic tear. So let's dive right into the story of the Great Silver Surge.
Just look at this. Bam! In early 2026, the price of silver didn't just climb, it exploded. It hit a mind-blowing, record-shattering $93.50 an ounce. Now, this isn't just a little price bump, folks. This is a fundamental shift for the metal, and it leaves us all asking one giant question.
How on earth did this happen? I mean, why did a metal that was kinda stuck in the 20s and 30s for years suddenly decide to more than triple? Well, the answer has a few moving parts, but to really get just how massive this is, we've got to look back for a second.
Now look, silver's always been a bit of a wild ride. It had these legendary surges way back in 1980, and then again in 2011, where it got close to $50 an ounce, and those were huge deals back then. But what's happening today? It just blows those records completely out of the water. It's almost double. We are in a whole new ballgame now.
All right, so what's the real story here? What's the engine behind this rocket ship of a price? Well, it all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful idea: the Great Silver Shortage. The world is facing a huge ongoing deficit. Plain and simple, we want way more silver than we can actually get.
Yeah, the fancy term for this is a structural deficit. But forget the jargon. Think about it like this. Imagine a grocery store that sells 100 cartons of milk every single day, but they can only get 80 from their supplier. For a while, they can use the extra milk they have in the back room, but sooner or later, that back room runs empty. Well, that's exactly where we are with silver. The world's back room is running out.
And the sheer size of this thing is it's hard to wrap your head around. Get this, between 2021 and 2025, the total shortfall in the silver market was a mind-boggling 828 million ounces. That's not a small leak, that's a massive hole in the bucket.
And this chart just lays it all out, clear as day. Look at that! For 5 years straight, we've been in the red. We've used more than we've produced every single year. This isn't a fluke, it isn't a one-off bad year, this is a deep, chronic problem.
So who's using all this silver? This is where it gets really interesting. You might think, jewelry, coins, maybe some fancy silverware, and yeah, that's part of it, but look at that giant slice of the pie. Nearly 60% of all silver demand comes from industry, and that, right there, is the key to this whole story. Silver isn't just a pretty metal anymore, it's a critical ingredient for modern technology.
And this huge industrial demand? Well, this is the coolest part of the story. We're not talking about old-school stuff here. We're talking about the massive, world-changing technological megatrends that are literally building our future.
First up, we've got the global push for green energy. This single movement is creating a hunger for silver that is just completely off the charts. And there's a very good reason why.
Here's the deal. Silver is the best conductor of electricity of any element on the planet. Nothing beats it. That makes it absolutely essential for solar panels. Every single panel you see on a roof in a giant solar farm, yep, it's got silver in it. And then you've got electric cars. An EV uses 2 or even 3 times more silver than a regular gas-powered car because all of its complex electronics. The green revolution literally runs on silver. The second huge driver is the other revolution you hear about every single day: artificial intelligence. Now, we tend to think of AI as just software, code floating around in the cloud, but that cloud is actually built on a staggering amount of very real, very powerful hardware. And guess what that hardware needs? All those millions of servers in massive data centers, the connectors, the switches, the complex circuits, they all depend on silver for that unbeatable conductivity. So as AI gets bigger and hungrier for power, the world needs more and more of the physical stuff that makes it all possible. Silver is truly the backbone of the digital age.
But wait, the story doesn't end there. It's not just about industry. This massive physical squeeze is forcing everyone, from big-time investors to national governments, to look at silver in a whole new way. Its strategic importance is absolutely exploding.
So you're seeing investors pile in. In 2025, holdings in silver investment funds jumped 18% as people looked for a safe haven. But the real game changer, the US government officially declared silver a critical mineral. That is a huge deal. It puts silver in the same category as things like lithium and cobalt, basically saying our national and economic security depend on it.
All of this is rewriting the relationship between silver and its famous big brother, gold.
Gold has always been the king, right? A pure store of value. But silver, it's the workhorse. It has this unique dual identity, part money, part industrial metal that we absolutely have to have. And you can see this shift happening in the gold to silver ratio. It's been dropping like a rock. That's the market waking up and realizing just how uniquely valuable silver's industrial side has become.
Okay, so we have a huge shortage, we have demand booming from green energy and AI, and we have investors and governments jumping on board. It's a perfect storm. So the obvious question is, where in the world does the price go from here? Well, if you look at what the experts are saying, the forecasts are pretty wild. You've got major banks like Citigroup and Bank of America seeing prices staying way up there, all because of industrial scarcity. Some analysts are a bit more cautious, but the really bullish ones, they're talking about numbers like $100, maybe even $200 an ounce. They believe when the reality of this extreme scarcity really hits home, the price has nowhere to go but up.
Ultimately, when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one central idea. This quote just nails it. Silver is no longer just a monetary metal, it is a vital component of the future economy. That dual role, as both a safe haven asset and an irreplaceable ingredient for the future, has put it at this incredible, historic turning point.
And that leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. As our world races towards a future that's more electric, more connected, and more intelligent, a future that physically cannot be built with this metal, you really have to ask yourself, in the 21st century, is silver the new gold?